Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, and welcome to day 2 of Womb Wellness Week. Today we are going to open with just a few menstrual health basics to make sure we're all on the same page around what is a healthy menstrual cycle or period. Yesterday we talked about what is the womb and why it matters, and we talked a bit about the significance of the womb from not just a reproductive standpoint, but culturally, the significance of having a womb and what it represents culturally and religiously. And today we're going to talk about what exactly is a healthy period. How do we recognize it so we know what we're moving towards and like what's a true north on our compass as we're making changes in our menstrual health or as we're making changes in our self-care with the intention of positively impacting our menstrual health. Sometimes people will make some kind of life change, whether in their fitness or in their diet, and then a shift will happen and they'll say, oh no, I'm not bleeding as long as I used to, or I don't have as many clots as I used to. And I think it's important for us to know, how do we move towards balance so we can recognize what changes we're making and how they're helping us move towards healthier balanced periods, or how we're moving away from them. So again, this is just information. It's not judgment. It's just bringing our awareness to what our period is currently like, and having a vision for where we can move towards, or how we can move towards a more balanced, healthy, fertile state. So initially, what I want to talk about is that the period is considered our fifth vital sign, and this was a statement made by the association, the College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, um, uh, within the last, let's say, within the last 5 to 7 years. A statement was issued that in the female body, the period is considered a vital sign or an indicator of health. When we think of vital signs, when we go to a medical provider, oftentimes they're checking our blood pressure, respiratory rate, our pulse, and temperature, right? Those are 4 key indicators that can give us a gauge or a barometer for what's happening in our body, and when we're in a state of homeostasis or wellness, and when we're outside of that. And the period has the same. So even though they made this really potent statement, they didn't tell us how we recognize a healthy period. When it comes to blood pressure, we know what hypertension is diagnosed as and what hypotension is diagnosed as. We know the same for the pulse, right? What's considered arrhythmia and what's considered hypothermia and hyperthermia. Like, we have these ideas and these concepts really well outlined. But unfortunately, it has not yet translated into medical settings as to how to diagnose the period as a vital sign. However, that's when we lean on the long, generous, tried and true, and ancient traditions of alternative health and wellness that have existed around the world. And these are documented systems of wellness. So if you look at traditional Chinese medicine, if you look at Ayurveda, if you look at Unani Tib, we have long systems, very old systems of wellness that have existed beyond the current medical model. And in those systems, we do find ways to assess the period as a barometer of health. So we'll just go over some of those key indicators right now. So Bismillah. Okay. So if we want to, first we need to put into context that the period is a monthly cleanse. So if you imagine, we have different organ systems and they all have a cleanse, right? The kidneys cleanse in a certain way, the colon cleanses in a certain way. And I need us to put our uterus in the same category. It cleanses, it releases. And much like the other organ systems, that cleanse and that release should happen routinely. It should happen effortlessly, and it should happen efficiently and effectively and completely. Okay? So let's, whatever you might have conceived of a period before, let's just put it into the context of a monthly uterine cleanse. Emptying your bowels should be a daily, if not more than once a day, routine emptying of the bowels, right? Effortless, without struggle, without difficulty, and timely, consistent, not backed up, not stagnated. Okay? And so the period is a monthly uterine cleanse. Let's just frame it as that and treat it like that. So when we talk about what a balanced period is, or what a period that is indicative of robust fertility, optimal hormonal health, we actually have ways to identify that and define it. So that's what I'll explain to you now. So we look for a 4-day menstrual flow. And when I say flow, I mean the actual flow of menstruation. This is not inclusive of spotting before or after, but an actual steady continuous flow should be ideally 4 days. The color of the menstrual flow should be red from beginning to end, right? So we don't start pink or brown or end in brown. The flow itself should be starting and ending red. And when we say red, some would say crimson red, some would say cranberry red, but holistically, starting and ending red is an indicator of a healthy menstrual period. The flow should be steady. It should not be watery, nor should it be sluggish, clotted, or thick. Some would say it should have the consistency of maple syrup, right? So, like a steady stream that's not rushing out like water, nor is it thick like molasses and really hard to eliminate. Because anytime there's that thickness and clotting kind of flow, then our uterus helps us by cramping and contracting to release that sticky, difficult flow. The other indicator of a balanced period is that there's no pain, okay? No cramping, no pain, no PMS or significant symptoms. There should be biological changes that you notice, but if they're to the point of disruption or needing to take pain medication or needing to seek medical attention, right? Passing out, nausea, vomiting, or what have you, these are disruptive symptoms. These are not indicative of a healthy, balanced menstrual cycle. So again, that's without pain, without PMS, which are these significant symptoms, right, that are correlated to the week before the period and sometimes during the period, and just significant symptoms. So disruptive symptoms that include breast tenderness, leg pain, bloating, insomnia, etc. There's all information here. If that's your reality, that's where you're at, and it's information. Now, at least I hope you'll see a direction that you can go, or what's a possibility that can exist for you. The other thing that's indicative of a healthy, another indicator for healthy periods, is a regularly occurring period that's coming or beginning every 28 to 30 days. 29 days is actually ideal. Now, I know in a medical setting, you've been told your normal is what's normal for you, and that's fine. And there is a range within which there isn't significant hormonal disruption. But if your normal is 21-day menstrual cycles, right? Every 21 days you have a new period. This normal is not optimal for your health. It's not optimal for your blood supply. It's not optimal for your fertility. It's not optimal for your overall health and vitality, or even possibly your quality of life, especially depending on how you bleed. Or having a period every 40 days is also not ideal, okay? So that may be where you're at now, and there's no judgment there. But as you make changes, as you incorporate more period care practices, it's important to know which direction we want to be moving towards and not away from. So even if this doesn't look like what your period is right now, keep in mind that each period is a reflection of the previous month, right? If you don't like how your period was, your last period, you have another period to make shifts and try something different, to add a little bit more care into your life. Each month is a new opportunity. So don't think that the way your period is how it will always be, even if it's always been like that. Our periods are always malleable and responding to the reality of what's happening in our body on a nutritional level, on a stress level, on a hormonal level. Okay. So again, to recap, the healthy period characteristics would be a 4-day menstrual flow that begins and ends with a red color. It has a steady flow like the consistency of maple syrup. It's neither watery nor clotted. It is free of clots, free of pain and cramping, free of PMS or disruptive symptoms. And significant symptoms. It's we should feel an awareness of something being different when we menstruate. We should notice an awareness, have an awareness of a sensation in our womb, maybe a heaviness or a warmth, but not necessarily pain and cramping, but an awareness that something is happening, and that the menstrual cycle should last 28 to 30 days. And another indicator that I want to add to that is your cervical fluid. We should notice an abundance of clear, slippery, stretchy cervical mucus around the time of ovulation. Outside of ovulation, we may notice some what we consider vaginal discharge, and in some cases it is vaginal discharge. Sometimes there's just excessive mucus in the body, and that may show up as persistent discharge, colored discharge, malodorous discharge throughout the entire month. So it might be hard to recognize when there's cervical fertile quality cervical mucus if we have an abundance of mucus and we have an abundance of discharge always, exiting from our bodies. However, ideally seeing that clear, slippery, stretchy cervical mucus that's indicative of fertility or indicative of ovulation is what we ideally see throughout the month, and not an abundance of colored or malodorous or abundant discharge outside of that time. So some of the practices that help us move towards this healthy period is to prioritize some key period care practices. The first of which is nourishing food, nourishing ourselves, feeding ourselves. It takes nutrition, it takes nutrients to build blood, it takes hydration to build blood, it takes minerals to build blood. And so if we are not putting in the nourishment that we need to build healthy blood supply, it's going to be difficult to have a healthy period. We might notice a period that's pink in color because there isn't enough substance and nutrition in our bodies to produce healthy red flow. Another key period care that impacts our experience of our period in real time is warmth. So if you find that you incline towards icy foods, frozen foods, and raw foods during your period, my invitation is for you to switch that and instead have an inclination towards foods that are warm and warming, right? So this would be foods that are well cooked, stews and soups. This would be vegetables that are well cooked as opposed to salads at this time. This would be preferring room temperature water or tea versus cold water, iced water, and smoothies, right? Frozen things. Instead, we want to incline towards warmth, not coldness. And when we warm ourselves, we actually help our blood flow more effectively and efficiently. So it's not clotting, it's not brown, it's not moving slowly and sluggishly. It actually is making sure our uterine cleanse is efficient, right? The cleanse is thorough, complete, and efficient without struggle, stagnation, and difficulty in relieving and releasing our menstrual lining or our uterine lining. The third principle of period care that is really important and can also impact the quality of your period in real time is rest, right? Your uterus is literally heavier when you're menstruating. If you're standing on your feet, if you're exercising vigorously, all of that work can add to the sensation of heaviness that we already feel, right? With our womb being full of, blood supply and lining that's shedding. So we want to be mindful of our rest, and that actually can slow down your blood flow if you're a heavy bleeder or if you tend to bleed for a very long time. Really active cardio and vigorous exercise while you're menstruating, even though some people will say, oh, it's good for you, it helps relieve pain, it helps passes your clots. There is also another side of that, is that you can be bleeding longer than necessary because you're not resting and allowing your blood vessels to close and allowing your cervix to close and stop the blood flow. That added weight and gravity and strain and stress could be taking away strength from where it's needed, which is in the uterus, to close itself, close the vessels, and close the cervix at the time that's needed. Another practice that is really helpful is herbal teas. I have mine today. Today I have Quincalaba and ginger tea. So herbal teas that have nutrients and minerals that are supportive of your period. Also, teas that have an affinity for the uterus or the womb would be considered uterine tonics. So herbs that are helpful in toning the uterus, toning the blood vessels, and bringing nutrients and support to the uterus. There are certain herbs that are considered uterine tonics. Red raspberry leaf is an example. Kinkeliba is an example. Motherwort an example. There are plenty of herbs that have an affinity for the womb, and we use the mugwort as another as well. And then lastly, magnesium-rich foods. Magnesium is a key mineral that we use for many processes, and we use a lot of it in our luteal phase leading up to our period and during our period. So really wanting to be attentive to and mindful of how are we bringing in magnesium into our diet. Are we ingesting foods that are rich in magnesium, like almonds and avocados, like dark chocolate? If you ever have a chocolate craving, some say this is connected to a magnesium deficiency, so this desire for more magnesium. Cocoa is a great source of magnesium, but you're going to get the magnesium ideally from dark chocolate. So this is chocolate that has like 70% or higher cacao would be ideal. This wouldn't be like milk chocolate, for example, or white chocolate. So if you're noticing that craving, try to meet it with dark chocolate as opposed to another form of chocolate, if you like chocolate at all. But again, there are other magnesium-rich foods that can be supportive. For some people, supplementation is really supportive, and it's a way that magnesium helps to relax our muscles. So that can be a really helpful way to relieve cramping pains if you experience them, as well as relieve leg pains, right? Sometimes people have leg pains during their period. Sleep, sometimes it impacts the quality of our sleep. So magnesium could be helpful in that case. And also elimination. It's nearly impossible to have a healthy period if you're not eliminating, i.e., moving your bowels every day. So if you struggle with constipation, that's definitely going to impact your hormonal wellness because used hormones need to be eliminated. And then you can also achieve or nourish your body with magnesium with Epsom salts, whether that's foot soaks or full baths. Epsom salts are a rich source of magnesium. And there are other creative ways. There are magnesium creams and other ways of getting it, but just bringing our attention to what is our magnesium intake. So what is our food intake period, right? To recap, we need nourishing food. We need to feed our bleed. If we're going to bleed, we actually need to nourish and feed ourselves. We need to stay warm so that we are supporting optimal circulation and a thorough, effortless cleanse, right? Healthy red blood that is moving, not slow, stagnant, cold blood that can be dark and thick. We need rest, right? Prioritizing rest is the other factor of period care. Actually coming off of your feet, slowing down, giving your body a chance, and really honoring the very real work that it is to menstruate, right? It's significant work, and just because it's not outward work, that doesn't mean that our body is not doing real work. Our bodies are inherently productive. We produce blood, we produce tissue, we produce eggs, we produce babies and milk in some cases. So don't be fooled into thinking that the only real work is outward work, physical work, manual work, work that everybody can see. Your body is constantly working, and we honor that work and we honor our wombs by resting and realizing that that work needs to be given its respect and its due. Herbal teas are also great allies for period care. So preferring herbal teas, hot teas, herbs that have an affinity for the womb, herbs that are cleansing in nature, right, supportive of your circulation, like ginger, toning of your uterus, like red raspberry leaf, relieving of like muscle cramping. So muscle relaxing herbs would be like chamomile, for example. And there are many other herbs. Just find out where you are and what's local to where you are. It's always really a great option. And then lastly, paying attention to your magnesium, right? What magnesium-rich foods, supplements, or practices are you incorporating into your life to really support your body and having a healthy menstrual cycle, relieving pain, encouraging excellent sleep, deep sleep, nourishing sleep, as well as healthy, regular daily bowel elimination. Okay, so that's our mini lesson of the morning. feel free to leave any comments or questions in the Facebook group chat or in the comments below. And looking forward to seeing you later today. Today on our schedule, we have Menstruation in the Sira with Sheikh Shaista Maqbool, which I'm really excited to share with you. So join us later today at 3 p.m. GMT. And yeah, looking forward to getting your reflections and your prompts from today's sessions and hearing what's coming up for you as you hear this information. So today's prompt, which will be posted in the group, and you can start thinking about it now, is what were you taught is a healthy period, right? Because I might be sharing something that's totally different from what you've learned or what you've read. So in your understanding, in your upbringing, who told you what a healthy period was and what did that period look like? Where did that information come and how would you describe it? Thank you so much for being here, for being a part of Womb Wellness Week, and see you later today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and peace be upon you.